Enjoying Frugal February. Oh, that's a hard one to get my tongue around. With all of you guys, and for all of my Northern Hemisphere friends, happy Valentine's Day. It was Valentine's Day here yesterday. We had a lovely day. I always do like little things for my kids just because I think it is fun. But I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Let us know what you guys are doing for Valentine's Day. Thank you for joining us instead of going out for dinner and spending money. We appreciate that. It's so good to see you. Good morning, Marcus. I am pretty sure we should be streaming all of the places today. So let us know where you're watching from. I am so excited to be joined by two of my, I would say they are my goals. They are Hope and Larry from Under the Median. And if you have not checked out their channel, you are going to absolutely love it. I just know that you will just fall in love with them as people, but also as far as practical tips that no matter where you are on your finance journey, they have got you covered. And let me tell you, if you went in my last live stream, I said this, if you like spreadsheets, if you like lists, Hope is your girl. She has got you covered. And for me, I just find it so helpful to have so many practical tips in one place. Guys, I can see you guys watching from Tennessee, watching from South Philly. How, guys, so exciting. Krishna is in Michigan. It's so good to see you all. Coulter is in San Jose, California. So good to see you guys. We're all here. We're all here. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my friends, Hope and Larry. Hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us on. We've been so excited.
Me too. So for those people who don't know you as well as I do, can you just give us a little bit about your story and how you made your way onto YouTube?
Well, so we're Hope and Larry, and we've been married for 33 years.
Yep.
And we have 4 amazing sons. They range in age from 25 to 13. And we did not start out our journey in life frugal at all. And in fact, 2 months after we got married, I opened the bank statement to find out that we were flat broke. And Larry got home from work and I said, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is we have no money. The good news is you get paid in a few days, which means we will have more money, but we got to figure this thing out. So that sent me on a quest to figure out how in the world it was possible for us to live on a budget, can consistently spend less and save more. And that started the whole thing.
And I think it evolved over time. We didn't just break right into it. It was something that we developed over really a period of years as we started trimming back certain areas of our spending that was costing us money.
Well, I went to like the frugality shelf in the library, like the personal finance shelf. And I literally like started at, if you wrote a book on frugality in the late 1980s and your name started with A, I started with you. And I worked my way across the shelf and literally like just read and researched and tried to figure out like what worked for us, what didn't work for us. And it was like such an amazing journey. I had such a good time doing the research and figuring these things out. So fast forward like 30 years and he's getting ready to retire. I'm like, well, we need something we can do together. I know, let's do YouTube. So for us, I worked in radio for a number of years. He worked in television. So for us, it was like a really good, and we knew it, we were pretty sure it'd be a natural fit for us to do YouTube. But it's been such a blast. Oh my gosh. We love creating these videos and helping people. We tell people that we just throw spaghetti at the wall. So we give you like lots and lots and lots of tips. That's the spaghetti. And you determine what sticks to your wall and what doesn't. But we want to like give you so many tips and strategies for saving money that you think, all right, I never thought of that. And that's like kind of the goal, is for us to give you tips every week and you think, oh, great, it's something new to try. Because when I went on this journey, when I found something new to try, I was like so excited.
So we took two two major steps when we were starting out. Hope mentioned she worked at a radio station. And on that radio station, she was the board operator. In the afternoon, she put on a show. It was actually a live call-in program with a gentleman by the name of Larry Burkett. Now, he's kind of the Dave Ramsey of the finance radio back in the
1980s.
80s,
Yeah.
late 80s, early 90s. We actually got to meet him in person. But one of the things that he mentioned was getting out of debt. And when you get out of debt, whatever you were in debt for, that much money now is giving you a raise in your income. And that really made an impact on me. The other thing that we did...
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, go. Well, I mean, it's just, I think it is so good. I think most of us, you know, aside from those few that get it right from the get-go, it's so encouraging just to hear that, you know, you guys got to that point where you're like, actually, we have no money, and starting out from that point, because I think, you know, when you see someone who's, you know, doing amazing things with their money, that seems like such a far off point from sometimes where you are in this moment. So to hear from you guys that it didn't start out that way, and that it, you know, it's just that continual growing process, and that, you know, wherever you are on your journey, whether you are like a frugalista who is sort of naturally that way, or if, you know, like you guys, you had to work it out on the way, wherever you're at. On this channel, we say something, love the spaghetti. I'm gonna totally steal that. I always say in my videos, take what you like and leave what you don't. And, you know, I'm gonna throw all the options at you and you can pick and choose whatever's gonna work. So I absolutely love that. So sorry, Larry, what was that other thing you were gonna say about just getting out of debt and your journey?
Well, one of the main things that Hope saw in our early budget is we were paying too much for rent. And the rent we couldn't afford. Now, if I told you what the rent was, it would seem like a very small amount today. But we were over our budget. So she said to me, we have to find another place to rent. We had a nice apartment. It was a beautiful 2-bedroom, washer and dryer, very, very nice, good neighborhood. But we prayed about it, and we started looking, and we actually took a walk and found a house within 3 blocks that was about a third less rent a month. And we ended up getting that house as a rental, and we stayed there for 4 years and started then to save money.
And that, isn't that just such a great tip, that just looking at your budget and finding another way to do exactly what you're doing now. My girls have recently joined musical theatre, and I looked everywhere to see like what I could get for them. And, you know, there were drama classes in our area that were, some of them were $30 an hour, some of them were $40 or $50 an hour. And then just by asking around, I found our community theatre actually offer them for $300 a year, which worked out to be like $6 a lesson or something. So it's not necessarily, you know, reinventing the wheel. It might just be, like you said, something as simple as, hey, can we get another apartment that is going to be cheaper? Can we do this same thing but cheaper? So that is so helpful. And as I said, oh, sorry, you go, Ho.
No, go ahead.
You know, as I said, the thing that made me fall in love with you guys so much is that I also went to the library section, and I went to the finance section because, you know, I'm so fancy. And I got all the books about investing and saving and all those sorts of things. And they are as wonderful as they are, but they didn't actually tell me how. So one of the things that made me fall in love with you guys was you told me exactly how some practical tips are. So if someone is, say, starting out on their journey, what are some of those practical tips that you think, you know, just across the board are really great for a lot of people?
First thing they need to do is track their spending. Write down in a ledger, this is how we started, write down everything that you spend in a month, and then compare that to your salary. What are you making? And see, just that's how you have to start, by getting a measurement of what you're making.
The other thing that we tell people, and I think this is a huge mistake that people make, they expect to start out with perfection. They expect They're going to create that first budget. It's going to be like nirvana. It's going to be perfect. And if you want to see poster children for really, really bad first budgets, you are looking at them. Our first budget was a train wreck. Now, does that mean it was an exercise in futility? Absolutely not. We learned so much about what didn't work from actually giving it a go. So never be afraid of those first steps toward budgeting, toward paying cash, toward paying off debt, because those first steps are really, really vitally important to you figuring out what doesn't work and what your next step is. So
the main thing is getting started.
Yeah.
Isn't that true with any project? Once you
Yes.
get it started, then it's easy to continue it.
And that you're probably not aware of where you're going wrong until you make that ledger. Coulter was saying he's not sure anyone gets it right from the get-go. And I think that having that moment of either a big financial mistake, I remember, I'm just going to share, guys, we're getting real here. I'm going to share I was 19, living out on my own. I went straight into the workforce after I left high school. And so I was bringing in the big money, for a 19-year-old. And I got myself a gym membership. And I got locked in to the world's worst gym contract. But let me tell you, having to pay out that gym contract when I moved and I couldn't even use that gym anymore was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it was through that mistake that I was like, you know what? I'm always going to read the fine print. I'm not going to go into financial contracts with things that I'm not sure I'm going to keep doing. So guys, would you feel free to share maybe one bad mistake that you guys have made over the years, just so that all those people in the chat don't feel so alone?
Okay, one of the mistakes we made, I don't know, Larry's looking.
There are so many.
I know, I don't know what he's going to mention. I'll mention one and then see if he brings up a different one. We were buying a whole new set of windows for our first house, and we had the money sitting in a bank account to pay for it. And we talked ourselves, or let a family member with the best of intentions talk us into 180 days, same as cash. Well, we got the loan papers, and they were from a well-known loan company that loans people money at astronomically high interest. And I think that was when the flashing red lights that should have been there in the first place all of a sudden started flashing in my head. And I thought, what have we done? Well, thankfully, the contract allowed us to pay it off early with no interest and no problem with the financing. So we actually wound up paying it off early. But that whole process of actually signing papers for what would have been a loan at huge interest rates, had we missed a payment, been late on a payment, done anything other than what was written in really, really tiny fine print on that contract, really showed us that we should never have done that.
Gosh, I'd forgotten that one.
Which one were you going to bring up? I know it. I'm like, oh no.
I thought of three.
Oh goodness.
Three.
Okay.
So we'll take one. One. I was thinking of the Kirby vacuum cleaner.
Oh yeah, that was a mistake.
Well, you know what's funny?
I know many people who got done by the Kirby vacuum cleaner. That must have been one hell of a sales pitch, mustn't it?
It was. I will say this. Oh, she was nice. We were going to help her win a trip. It was yeah. So she went to Cancun or somewhere, I don't know. But, I will say we still use the Kirby.
It was 22 years ago. And my sons actually have it. We have another one identical to it. It was a good vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, but
I don't think it was worth $785. So that was a mistake. The biggest mistake that we've made is not taking enough time to purchase something, especially if you've got a salesperson hawking it. Now, the other mistake was the Salad Master pans that we paid, I don't even remember. It was over $2,000, wasn't it? It was an unbelievable amount of money. And they're good pans. They're going to last us our entire lives.
better.
They'll probably go through 5 generations of our kids.
You'll have to leave them to the boys in your will. Like, guys, these are never to be thrown away. These are part of your inheritance.
That's right.
But
Never.
could we have cooked on a lot less? Yes. But we bought
my
we bought
goodness.
into the whole spill, and it was a really good sales job.
It was very good.
And I'll just mention
Not
one.
only that, our best friends.
Oh, yeah, they
we
bought into
invited
it,
them
too.
to the dinner. We led them down that path of perdition right with us.
They bought a set
and
too.
every once in a while, they'll look at us and say, "Well, but we have our pots and pans together." I'm like, we both better have our pots and pans. We both bought them that
eternity,
night. Yes.
The
We are
other-
bonded forever by the pot and pan decision.
Love it.
And the other purchase that we made, and we talk about this a couple of times. I think we mentioned it on tonight's video. Actually,
we might.
We bought, I believe it was a 2006 Pontiac Montana van.
Oh, yeah.
It was about $12,000 with a trade-in, and we were looking at our bank account, and Hope said, "Well, we've got that much money in the bank." And I said, "Okay, well, let's just go for it." But we were seeing our money as this big pool of money in a big pot. And this was before we started dividing out the money and budgeting it out, and then developing the the sinking funds. This is before the sinking funds days, where we monitored everything that we spent. We now do the every dollar thing that Dave Ramsey talks about. It was a good van. It wasn't a mistake to buy it. It's just how we did
It
it.
was like a lot more money than we should have been spending, though. It's not like it occurred to us that really that big green pile of savings, it could have been used for some other goals. And we maybe should have had written goals.
Yeah, well, it's a learning, isn't it? And I think it's
Yes.
so good. And if anyone in the chat would like to, this is our safe
Oh, please
place.
share.
Please share with us so we don't feel so alone about what some of the mistakes that you have made. I mean, like Hope and Larry, I could give you probably a really good top 10. But I think, what Larry touched on at the start of that is any time that you feel pressured into making a decision really fast, that's usually a ploy to not let you think about it, right? So if it's not
Right.
a good deal tomorrow, it's probably not a good deal today. And
Yes.
just those simple tips, those acts of just, 24 hours to think about things. And if you still want it tomorrow, then go and do it then. So,
Yep. Yep.
obviously, I heard Hope say before that you guys started your YouTube channel because Larry is, you guys are transitioning. But just to give you guys an idea, Larry and Hope would never say this because they are so modest, but Hope homeschooled her 4 boys. Larry works in broadcasting. These are very busy people. And so, I think sometimes we think that saving money is going to take us so much more time. And so, do you guys have any sort of those little tips that might help someone if they're personally, I think it's, if you save money, you're saving time because you can work less. But, sometimes do we write stuff off because we think it's going to take too much time?
Right. Well, I will say the actual amount of time that we spend budgeting is maybe an hour or 2 a month. It's not that much. Once you get the systems in place, so that's one of the tips I think we could give is make sure that as much as you can, you create systems around your habits, because the difference between people who save money and people who don't save money is simply that people that save money have put systems and habits into place that allow them to consistently do that. That's the only difference. The other thing that we would say is if you feel like it's just overwhelming, I just can't do it, it's overwhelming. Once you set up your budget, every quarter, we pick 4 areas of our budget, 4 budget categories every quarter, every 3 months. We focus and double down on those 4 areas during that 3-month time period. And we write down a series of 3 to 5 daily action steps that we are going to take in just those 4 areas to try to save money. So like you would have area, let's say you're going to save money on food. I'm going to cut my food bill by 20% this month. Let's say that's your goal. Underneath of that, you're going to say, here are 5 ways I'm going to do that. Because if you merely create goals and you don't have a plan to get from that goal to where you want to be, it's probably not going to happen. But all you need are 5 steps you're going to take every single day. And then at the end of those 3 months, you're going to look at it and put a check mark next to the ones that you did each, more or less most of those 3 months, and say, did I make progress? Do I want to, continue? Do I want this to continue to be a goal for the next quarter? Or do I want to change to a new goal? That has helped us so much, and being able to consistently make progress.
I think, too, the advantage of budgeting and budgeting it down real tight is that it takes all the guesswork out of where your money is, how much you have, how much you can afford to spend on an item, something you might need. It takes the anxiety out of your money handling as well. And that is the big payoff as far as I'm concerned.
100%. And I remember someone explaining it to me like this, is that if you imagine yourself up, at the top of like Rockefeller Center in New York City, that the budget is actually the railing that allows you to enjoy your money, because you don't have to worry about accidentally walking off the edge because there's the railing there. And so without that railing, you really have no idea where the edge is. And that for me was just such a, as a visual learner, such a good mindset shift, that the budget is not there to restrict you, to be like, it's there, it works for you, and it's about your freedom. So we've got some honest mistakes here. Stuart says one of his top 10 was a £1,200, which is quite a bit more money for me. I'm not sure about the difference in the pound to the dollar, but in 2009 that got used once. Oh my gosh. Stuart, I feel your pain. If Caleb was here, he bought into, how like there was that Blu-ray, HD, DVD sort of race going on? Well, he bet on the wrong horse. So we still, in our garage, have some HD DVDs. So we feel your pain. None your business says out-of-state tuition. Now, this is not a thing here in Australia, but I do know from my Dave Ramsey education that this is a hard one, and the student loans that go with them. And I mean, when you're making those big decisions about student loans, you're 18 years old. I just cannot, it's not as big a thing here in Australia because we have some other sorts of options available, and even college, we call it uni, but it's not the only way here. So we don't have quite as many issues to overcome, but I can totally understand. Now, Stephanie was saying, any tips on how to get a dopamine hit from savings? Like the amount of dopamine you get from buying a new thing. And I think that this could be said, like working out, eating healthy, decluttering, all the things, the counterpart gives you the dopamine. And I know that this month in our Facebook group, join our Facebook group if you're not already, and make sure you're subscribed to Larry and Hope, because we are both running challenges this month on savings. And I would say that a challenge is kind of a great way to get that dopamine hit. Larry and Hope, what do you reckon? The challenge dopamine?
Well, let me address the dopamine first. Here's was the dopamine moment for me. We spent 2 years rigorously saving for a house. We were trying to get out of a declining neighborhood, and boy, was it declining. And we virtually cut everything that was fun in life off for 2 years. Now, that was not fun. So that would be the opposite of dopamine. But here was the dopamine moment when we found our house and we're sitting at the closing and we write the check for cash on the house and we hand it over. We go back to our house, and we're standing out in front of it and looking at it. And we looked at each other and said, that's ours. That was an awesome moment.
I remember sliding the check across the table at the closing. I slid it over to our realtor, and he looked at me and he grinned and he said, "Cash is king." Because I mean, so to be clear, we had a starter home that we bought. It was in an estate. It was the best home that we could get in the best neighborhood for the amount of money we had, and it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Bungalow on a tiny corner lot.
1930 house owned by the original owner.
Yes.
She was in her 90s. No updating to the house. But it was basically a very nice house. It just wasn't updated.
It had good bones. So
Yeah,
structurally, it was in really good shape. But we had to
Everything.
completely, I mean, from
Everything had to
literally
be done
top
to
to
it.
bottom, we redid it over the 18 years we owned it.
Yeah.
So we had that when we sold that, we, of course, because we owned it, all of that cash went toward the new house. So
We
the
paid-
amount of money we were saving was the difference between the first house and the second house. So
And
we
that-
weren't saving up the whole amount of money for a home.
And that first house was about half of what the bank would loan us. So we had headroom in our budget to very swiftly pay off a 15-year mortgage in 5 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think part of savings is just being very strategic and making decisions about the difference between what you want and what you need. Because we realized, did we want 3 bedrooms? Well, yeah, who doesn't? Did we want 2 bathrooms? Of course. But did we need it at that moment in our life when we bought the house? It was just the 2 of us. I mean, the wait line for the bathroom, not that long. Over the 18 years we owned it, we had 4 boys there, so the wait line got a lot longer. In fact, when we bought this house, we asked the boys, we said, "What do you like about the new house?" And all 4 of them said 2 bathrooms. So that was
we have a
huge.
yard. Now, we had a 60 by 62 foot lot on the original house, a real steep driveway.
Oh, wow.
It was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to address the gentleman that bought the camcorder for 1,200 pounds.
Do it.
Now, I love tech, and I bought a camcorder when we had our first child. And of course, now I worked in television. In fact, I had a black and white camera when Hope and I were dating, and I recorded quite a bit of video that we sent
He
to
has
some friends.
just really embarrassing video. I'm just going to say it.
Well, I transferred it all to DVD, and I have it all saved. But the way that I bought the camcorder is I went to work doing weddings. For 1 year, I did weddings, and I reused those tapes for our family footage. It was a $1,200 camcorder. That's what I paid for it. And the equipment to edit with amounted to a little bit more than that. After a year, I had it paid for. But see, I knew I was going to use it because I already had a black and white one, and I was using it quite a bit. But the key is do your research and take your time before you make a purchase like that, and kind of determine, am I really going to use this? So that's kind of how we handled that item.
I think we didn't answer the dopamine question. So, yes, getting back to the dopamine question. So sorry, the lady who asked it.
It's fine. Look, we are all about the tangents here. Can you even have a live stream without going off on a tangent?
I don't know.
think so. But I mean, I definitely think, like you said, that delayed gratification is definitely, one of the bigger payoffs for saving as a whole. But definitely, there are some things that you can do for some dopamine in the moment stuff, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. So I think that for us, so we're doing a monthly grocery challenge over on our channel right now. In fact, if y'all want to, at 8:00 tonight, we'll have our live premiere.
That's the Central Standard
the Central
time.
Standard. So for us, that's in 90 minutes. So we'll be
yeah.
back over at our channel. But one of the things that we really like to do is create, rather than huge goals, create a series of mini goals. So you're always working towards something like a small goal. And I think that that's where that dopamine hit comes in, when you don't buy that item and realize, wait a minute, yes, I just reached that goal. I think for me, at the end of every month, when we were in the black instead of the red, I was like, yes. It makes you feel like you have to get that mindset that says almost like I'm beating the system. Because it feels like the system is designed to create such a desire. Now, I wrote radio commercials for a living for a long time, so I was one of the people trying to sell you things. But I recognize that we are surrounded by all of this input, that it's constantly urging us, buy me, buy me, buy me. And when you don't buy, you are silently becoming a part of the minority that realizes, I don't have to buy. We feel this. Why do we feel this compulsion to buy things that are being advertised by people we don't even know?
We think that item will make us happy. You see all the people in the commercials; they're happy. You know, it's the way they sell.
And it's all designed to do that, isn't it? It's all designed to, pay later, buy it today, it's only on sale. That little Amazon thing that says one left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a racket. It really is.
It all. Now more than any other time in our history, we are surrounded by opportunities to spend money. So, create those little mini goals. Even if your goal is you write it down on a piece of paper that says, I'm not going to buy anything for the next week. That's a goal. That is a mini goal. And when you reach that and say, yes, I made it, celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not buying stuff, I might take a look at things I already have. Well, what do I have that I haven't been paying attention to? I've got a nice camera collection. I like to do photography. I upgraded a little bit last year. I bought some used cameras. I didn't pay a lot of money for them. But rather than purchasing an item, you might have things in your house that you might enjoy right now that you don't have to, buy something new to replace. While we were saving for our house, I just wanted to mention one of the things that kept us on track. Every week we went to open houses, and that helped us just keep that goal in front of us. You just keep it there, helped us to maintain that savings plan.
Yeah, because we knew that was the goal. There was a huge goal. The neighborhood was going south really fast.
It was seriously getting bad. Yeah.
We were like, we got to get our kids out of here. That was huge motivation.
Oh yeah, we had a home invasion a block away. Another house got shot up. I mean, it was it was bad.
This is
when we say going south, we mean
we were motivated.
This is as Dave Gazelle intends to get out of there.
It was very.
I mean, I completely agree with you guys, and I talk a lot about the overlap between decluttering and frugality.
Yes.
And as Larry was saying about looking what you already have, sometimes when we're decluttering, the goal is to find things that we want to get rid of. But sometimes when we're decluttering, it's actually just to take stock of what we have. And Larry, you were saying about your camera collection, and I obviously work with a lot of people with collections and hobbies. And so one thing that, I sort of say very gently is I say, is your hobby going to be, vintage photography, or is it going to be collecting cameras? And, if they say, oh, it's going to be vintage photography, well, I'm like, okay, well, great. Well, let's focus on that. And so, the two just marry together so well, whether it's, just using up what you have, which is the ultimate frugality, or, making sure that you're seeking from what you've already got instead of going out and buying something new. And I know Krishna had a question. I'm sorry, Chris, it's gone off in the chat somewhere, but asking about some other resources other than sort of Dave Ramsey, because we all have our flavor of people who speak to us. So obviously Larry and Hope's channel is an amazing resource for those practical things. Someone that I would recommend, he is an Australian, so I don't know how that would work with the American finances, but he's called the Barefoot Investor, and he is very practical as well, but also sort of deals with long-term financial planning as well. So Coulter says, have an exit strategy before you make a large questionable purchase. also when you're arriving at a party. Hope and Larry, I know that you guys sort of fall on the introvert end of the spectrum sometimes too, so you can probably identify with that, that exit strategy, leaving the party. So some of the other questions that I know come up probably for you guys all the time, but what is it that you think, I know you touched on this earlier, what is that advice that you think people discount that actually could help them if they gave it a try? What's sort of one of those things that people are like, oh, I don't need to do that? For me personally, the thing that I always discounted was meal planning. I was like, what if I don't feel like it on the day? I don't want to do that because I can't shop the sales. I had every excuse under the sun, Hope. And now when I actually stepped out and tried it, I was like, oh, this is actually a game changer. So do you have any game changers where we're like, guys, I know you got every excuse why you don't do it, but this is actually going to change your life?
Yeah, meal planning is absolutely huge. Interestingly, so a year ago, we realized that we had just totally blown out our grocery budget. And I mean, part of it was because we were all in lockdown, right? And he has a heart condition, and there was no way we were going any place out in public. And so we were picking up groceries.
We were limited to one store. And so we spent far more on groceries than we ever intended to. And I said, I'm going to get this under control. And so I decided in 2021, I was going to dig deep. And I cut our grocery budget from $400 to $300 a month. And then I said, I'm going to see how inexpensively I can really do this. And it wound up averaging $225 a month throughout the 12 months in 2021. And that sort of spawned the grocery challenge that we're doing right now over at our channel. Because one of those pivotal things that we talk about is the importance of, number one, knowing what you have on hand. Number two, and this is something people never, ever think of. When you buy perishables, arrange them to use them in order of their shelf life. So if you buy a head of cabbage and you buy leaf lettuce, make sure that you have plans to use that leaf lettuce before you use the cabbage, because the cabbage will last probably 3 or 4 weeks in your refrigerator. That leaf lettuce, 7 to 10 days if you're lucky. So make sure that you are always thinking about your perishable food in terms of the shelf life. And if you will use it from the shortest shelf life to the longest shelf life, you will immediately cut the amount that you are throwing out in the garbage because it has rotted by about 70%. It works every single time.
And Larry and Hope, I've heard you over the course of this challenge that when you meal plan, it's it's something that I hadn't considered back when I was, excuse Sarah, that person has now left, but excuse Sarah would say, well, so in my town, we have what we call a food co-op. And so it is a place where grocery stores and farmers can put items that they're either, they've changed the packaging or is close to its needing to be used date. And so I never know what I'm going to get when I go there. So I'm always like, well, I can't meal plan, but Hope and Larry have taught me a little bit about, I call it reverse meal planning, Hope. I don't know if I heard that term from you or if I just made it up, but it's a bit like where you go out and get some of the groceries, knowing what you've already got in your head, and you kind of recreate it in reverse. Would you mind just talking a little bit about that process, just in case anyone is in the same situation as us?
Yeah, you probably have heard that from me because I have used that terminology before. So you always begin not by looking through cookbooks or cruising the internet going, ooh, I wonder what looks good to make. Well, if you do that, you're going to spend a huge, so much more on your grocery budget than you ever intended. You need to cook out of what you have on hand. Always make sure you know what's in your pantry, know what's in your freezer, know what's in your fridge before you ever head out to the grocery store. Now, I buy a lot of markdowns, so that's very equivalent to what you do, Sarah, not knowing exactly what's going to be there. So I will purchase items knowing that I'm getting the best deals and like how much I think we can use up. But if you buy too much, make sure you have a plan to preserve it for later use, right? So you're either going to freeze it or you're going to dehydrate it for later use. And then you make a list of those items. I have a weekly list. You can see I have a list of all of my perishables. I start meal planning from that list. The stuff in my pantry isn't going to go bad in a week, nor is the stuff in my freezer, but the stuff that's sitting on my counter and in my fridge, that might go bad in a week. So you have to start that meal planning based on your list of perishables. And then once again, plan those meals for the whole week, but make sure that the meals earlier in the week are from the perishables that are going to go bad first, and it will help you tremendously. In fact, I have noticed, like, doing this consistently throughout our own challenge, we are actually spending significantly less on food than we usually do. So I might keep doing this after February.
Yeah. Oh, same here. Like, it has just been such a good exercise. And I think, one thing to consider is, Hope and Larry's challenge for this month is $50 a week. And that is just representative of what their total budget used to look like, and then taking it down from there. So I think that sometimes when we, do these challenges, we're not necessarily sort of making them achievable for us. So for example, that is, $50 American, which is, usually substantially more. I don't know about today, but
I think it's about 65 or 70 Australian.
Which is,
I think,
that's a considerable amount more when you're talking about groceries. And so taking into account even how many people they have in their home. So there's only 2 boys at home, is that right now, Larry and Hope? So that's obviously going to affect it as well. But, just being where you're at, and I was saying to Hope and Larry earlier that, what might look like, giving up takeaway coffee for one person might look like going down to 1 coffee a day or 1 coffee a week. So just knowing that wherever you're at in your journey is the perfect place to be, right? Like,
yeah, well, no, and one of the things we talk about all the time is that frugality is not about deprivation, ever. It's about choosing when, where, and how you're going to spend your money, but it is never about living a life of deprivation like forever. You should never feel that way. And I think one of the reasons we started this grocery challenge, though, is because we had so many people who were telling us in the comments section, I feel like I have to make a choice. Either I go to the grocery store and I buy all of our food for the week, or I stock our pantry. But I can't right now do both without throwing a whole bunch more money toward my grocery budget in order to stock our pantry. And I said, you know what? I don't think you have to make that choice. Yeah. And so the whole thing of showing people that I can feed my family for $50 a week is showing you not that you need to go feed your family for $50 a week, but if you are struggling to find extra money to stock your pantry, do this for a short period of time. Take all that extra money and use that money to stock that pantry.
And I want to say, too, that we don't pinch pennies in every single area all the time. We might pinch in maybe 6 or 7 areas, and then we might find something we want to spend money on that costs maybe a great deal of money. That's a very nice item. It's newer, better quality. We really want to go for quality when we make a purchase. So we don't buy the cheapest of a particular item. We don't just go to Walmart and buy the cheapest piece of whatever we're looking for. So part of living frugally is having money to spend on things that you really do want or need by depriving yourself a little bit of some things maybe you don't need so much.
Yeah, and I think that in the minimalist sphere, certainly there was sort of this train of thought of like, let the store be your storage. And that's really not good advice anymore, particularly when it comes to food. Yep. And I think that obviously we don't know what is coming tomorrow, but being really strategic about what you keep and knowing not just what to buy to put aside, but what you're actually going to eat. And we can talk to the cows come home about, you know, buying beans and rice, but ultimately if your family doesn't eat beans or rice, like that is not the thing to be buying.
Yes.
So, you know, buying what you're actually going to eat. I know that Sarah, one of my subscribers, she actually used to work in the industry of helping the elderly sort of look at where their electricity is going to, and these sorts of things that get forgotten. You know, as I know you guys have done some really good videos on helping people to manage like the electricity for winter and things like that. And I think because we just turn a light on and it happens and the bill comes 3 months from today, it's something we forget about. So would you guys have any tips for sort of those forgotten frugal things outside of the things we see and know about all the time?
Well, one of the things that we've noticed, I mean, so I don't know what it's like there, but in the States, natural gas and electric bills have just gone sky high. And of course, in the Midwest, like it's freezing outside and there's snow and ice and it's just really unpleasant here. And so people are struggling to pay these bills. And one of the things that we have really encouraged people to take into consideration is the fact that we did a 2-part video series. We did 25 ways to lower your winter utility bills. And then we said, you know what, viewers, we want to hear from you. Well, we have such amazing viewers. They're truly friends who have given us their tips. We did a second video and we gave 40 of their tips. So altogether, there are 65 tips, or 70, that's 70, I can't do math clearly, 70 tips on lowering your winter electric bills and your natural gas bills. But the question is, will any one of those 70 tips save you large amounts of money? Probably not. And what people forget is if they will adopt what they feel they can do. And if you have 10 tips that are going to save you $5 a month, you know what you just saved? $50 a month, $600 a year. You have to take those small changes and believe that those nickels and dimes will add up to dollars, because they do.
Yeah, and as far as you mentioned that the minimalists like to think of the store as the storage place. Well, we talk about this too on a couple of our recent videos, that by bulk buying, we buy some beans, oats, cream of wheat in 50-pound bags. Well, when you buy that in that kind of quantity, if you have room to store it, then you have frozen the inflation rate for the amount of time that you're using up that item. So that is a hedge against inflation.
That is, and you know, it's those little mind changes that make such a big difference. You know, I use the term micro habits, which is exactly what we're talking about when it comes to cutting down on food waste, cutting down our utility bills across the board, making sure we're driving our cars less, all of those things. Anytime that you do one thing that's going to save you some money, that's a benefit to your home. One of the things that I did when I was like exclusively a stay-at-home mom, so not working outside the home at all, is I would actually just write down, and again, this doesn't actually save me any money, it's just a mental change, is I would just write down, like if I mowed our front lawn, how much it would cost to have someone come and mow our front lawn, or if I was, you know, able to, I looked into what it would cost to have my kids in after school care, and I wrote down what that would look like if I was, you know, working outside the home, and what that would cost, or washing my car, how much would that cost? And so those little mind shifts are just as important, I think, as the actual sort of, you know, doing the savings part. So a little just before, I know we're running out of time and I have so many things I want to ask you, but as far as sort of prepping for the future, because I think that is on our minds a lot more often lately, and sort of finding that balance between, frugality and having things on hand that we're actually going to use. And, I've talked with Larry and Hope a little bit about, what it's like when it goes to the extreme. And I think for both frugality and minimalism, like it can be that it can go a bit too far if you're not careful, and it's all about intentionality. But if we were thinking about some things that we could do to be prepared for the future, obviously food is one component. Is there any other components that you guys think are sort of important for preparing for those things that you are actually going to use that won't just become clutter in the future?
One of the things that we tell people, and this is certainly more of a budgeting thing that we talk about, is the fact that if you are in debt, get out of debt.
That was the number one thing that came to my mind,
off
too.
your debt.
Yeah,
that is probably the number one hedge that you can get against whatever is coming down the pike. But the other thing that we talk to people about is you need to, first of all, don't continually react out of fear. Because when you are reacting out of fear, you're going to purchase things. You're going to make decisions that later down the road you'll think, oh, I shouldn't have made that decision. When you gather lots and lots of information, lots and lots of input, lots and lots of alternatives, and you have the opportunity, we are huge. Whenever you watch our channel, you will hear me say the word prioritized like 50 kajillion times, because I think that every list you make needs to be prioritized. So when you make a list that says, what do I need to do to be prepared for the future so that I feel a degree of comfort, that list needs to have the most important things to you and your family all the way at the top. That's your priority. That's what I mean by a prioritized list. The things that are most important go at the top, and then you work your way down. But make sure that when you're looking at that list, you are working your way through that list in a kind of a concrete sequential order that says, all right, we're here now. This is the next thing we're going to work on. This is the next thing you're going to work on. Make sure that all your goals are written down and you're tracking them. You have a 70% greater chance of reaching that goal when it's written down and you are tracking how you're doing on reaching that goal. So I think really, all of us need, like, what we called it, a kind of a hedge of protection against things that happened. It gives you like a life raft. We just talked about that this last week.
Well, and Hope and I aren't real big as far as what you would call formal prepping. We do watch some of the prepping channels. There's a real good one. A guy in California named Chris has a channel called City Prepping. It's very popular, and he's very good.
I think I've seen a few of his,
Yeah, he's got a lot of good ideas there, but we really don't prep for like a major event, like an asteroid falling or something. What we prep for are known issues that we have experienced throughout our lives, like a power outage for 3 days or a week, or snow that comes down that keeps us from going to the store. We try to be kind of practical about what we prep for based on our experience. So, we have enough food on hand to get us through maybe a month or so. We could probably
2 or 3 months. We tell people we prep for like 3 months worth of food. But so the whole idea is, what that does is it gives you the opportunity to figure out what your next move is. While you're eating that food that's in your food stores, you've got 3 months to figure out. If you don't have any extra food in your house, then you have to figure out what you're going to do the next week or the next day. So all we want is like a life raft. If the floodwaters raise high enough, you get on that life raft, and then it gives you an opportunity to kind of get your wits together and figure out what your options are. And we're all about just figuring out what the next move and what your options are.
And let's say in the case of a power outage, I have kerosene heaters. We can heat our home. I have a power generator. It's a 3,500 watt power generator. It'll run done major things. I'm getting ready to get our furnace wired so I can hook that up to the generator. But you have to think about what you're going to need in that event. And a lot of people don't plan at all. We had neighbors that when we had an ice storm and a lot of trees and limbs fell down and we lost power in some places for about 7 days, they weren't ready. They had to abandon their house. All their food spoiled. They stayed in a hotel. Well, Hope and I, we could have sat it out. Happened to be that our block kept power here. We only lost it for a couple of hours.
I know.
But we were prepared. We could have stayed put here and would have been fine. It was in the winter. It was in our winter time. So I think it pays off to be prepared for known issues.
And I think, again, that idea of working backwards, even if you start by just like with the budget, have a look at what you're currently using. How many tins of pasta are you using? You know, how could you cook something if the power was out? Like, even if you have a practice of, you know, okay, if the power went out and we couldn't, you know, do we have food that we could eat that doesn't require cooking? Obviously, the cold thing. Now, my friend Stephanie, she lives in Minnesota. Is that right, Steph?
Oh,
you can let me know
yes,
in the chat.
that's cold.
So she, you know, she shares with me some things, and I'm just like, she was saying that someone had to come and blow out her sprinklers. I was like, what? What's a blow out your what? Like, I just have no concept of what it's like to live in the cold, and I'm sure that adds all sorts of other things. But, you know, just that process of working back. What are you currently using? And like you said, it doesn't have to be, I think Coulter said he's getting 12 months worth of food, you know, stocked up. But it doesn't have to be that amount. Like you said, maybe if you've got this week, maybe you can just focus on getting an extra week and just meeting people wherever they're at. Now, I saw someone say about, you know, having someone in their life. One last question, having someone in their life that maybe, you know, usually it happens that one person is the frugal person and one person is the big spender. So if you guys feel comfortable, maybe you can share with us who is the frugalista and who is the big spender. But do you have any tips, even if they're just mind-changing tips about sort of coming on the same page with, you know, whether it be, you know, a husband and wife, or getting your kids on board with frugality, or, you know, working through those relationship frugality questions? Any tips for us?
Well, let me say first, before I got married, I prayed for a wife that could handle money, because I knew I wasn't very good at that. Now, I'm good at some other things, but not with money. And I got way more than I bargained for. So Hope is the frugal person. She's the saver. I'm the spender. But I work with her because she is what I asked for.
Yeah, when he complains, I'm like, do not blame me. You prayed, God sent it. It is not my fault. But yeah, so I'm definitely the saver. He would definitely be the spender. So the question in essence is, how in the world do we get on the same page? One of the things that we tell couples is that you need to figure out what your spouse's learning style is. How do they like to have information presented to them? When I went to Larry and I said, guess what? We're going to live on a budget. We're going to live within our means. We're going to save cash. We're going to pay cash for our next car. His exact words were,
"You're insane."
Yes.
We weren't making a lot of money at the time, and I thought it was impossible.
He thought I was crazy.
But I followed that up with, if you can figure out how to do it, I'm in.
So I created a spreadsheet. He's a concrete, sequential learner. He has to see it in black and white so he can see, here's where we're at, here's where we want to go, here are all the steps we're going to take between here and there. Once he saw that and realized, wait a minute, I wasn't so crazy, that it really could work, he was like, I am in this with you. I am on board. And so whatever your spouse or your partner's like love language is, how they really like dig understanding and learning information, that's how you need to present it. Now, as far as kids are concerned, we did like a lot with our kids as far as helping them understand like how we were spending money and why maybe we weren't spending money on the things that their friends' parents were spending money on. We always allowed our children to understand that they were a really important, integral part of the process. And when we had a goal and it involved like the whole family, we involved them in it. We had countdown sheets. We had check off places on the wall where we, when we saved a bunch of, a certain amount of money, they could check off X's, and we got closer and closer and closer to the goal, so that you build that anticipation of, it's not mom and dad doing this. They are helping. They are in it with you. They are a part of the process. And when you do that for them and they understand they are important, they will go right along with you.
And one of the things that we did as they got to be older, if they wanted an item, maybe an expensive item like a digital camera or something, we said we will go half of that amount if you save up for it. So they had to get some side jobs, learn how to work, learn how to save money, exercise delayed gratification. Then when they got that item, it meant a lot more to them.
They had to earn the other half of the money themselves.
Yeah.
And so, but somebody besides us paying them. It cost us, we just tell people, it cost us a lot more than their allowance ever cost us to do that. But, once they understood that we were in it with them, they would, because their money was in it too, they learned how to shop. They learned how to comparison shop. They learned how to look for a sale.
How
they
to
learned
research
do
the
research on the items,
what was
because
the best, they wanted to get the best item for the buck. And the
Yeah.
other thing that Hope did as a high school curriculum, all the kids had to run our budget for how long? 6 months? 6 months. They had to. She put them in charge. Now she oversaw what they did, but that
they
was
could not order
did the
like
actual
Netflix or
Yeah.
yeah. They could not like go crazy and start
No.
ordering stuff that was not in the budget.
No,
but
no.
yeah, they understood exactly. Now we have 2 grown sons. And they would say that that was pivotal in them figuring out how to handle expenses as a young adult, no longer living under our roof.
And they are such good savers.
They
Oh
are.
my gosh, they put us to shame.
Oh
they
my
are
gosh.
such good
Actually got
savers.
the hope gene coming in.
True.
Yeah.
And, I say, again, just drawing these comparisons between frugality and decluttering and organizing, is that it is so much easier to get your kids on board with decluttering if you're in the room there with them to support them. And just like meeting them where they're at with their savings goals and investing in their knowledge of finance, that is such a big thing. And then when it comes to your partner, like, even if it is these micro challenges that you're doing together, that is so helpful, not just to save money, but also just to grow closer together. And hope that the fact that you thought about, how can I do this to meet like Larry's understanding, or how is this going to make the most sense to Larry? I think that is where the mind shift comes in. For Caleb and I am the saver, and he's very conservative now, like Larry, but his natural reaction is probably to spend a little bit more. So going through and sort of saying to him, I can see that you love tech, and we found ways that we could enjoy tech, and we started a side hustle where we sell vintage games, like old school Nintendo's games and those sorts of things, which allowed him to go out and do the collecting, but we actually make a really good side hustle from those things. So, thinking outside the box like you did, Hope, to help Larry, I think all of those things are such great tips. So I feel like I could talk to you for a month of Sundays. I don't know if that's an Aussie term, but I have so many questions for you, and I would love to talk to you more about it, but I know that you guys are heading into a premiere very soon. So guys, if you're not already, please subscribe to Hope and Larry. They really are just such great practical tips. So today, what is the premiere today, guys? It's on the $50 challenge, is that right?
It is. It's on the $50 challenge. And this week,
It's on savings.
We did something different. Oh no, wait.
Tonight's is on savings.
Tonight's Monday.
On savings.
I'm so confused.
Me too.
I got it. I'm like, is this a Monday? Is this a Thursday? Because we do 2 videos a week, Monday and Thursday.
We give 7 tips on how to become a super saver.
Yeah. So super savers in the U.S., super savers they save at least 20% of their income. So we give 7 tips that will put you on the road to
and
being
we give a bunch
savers.
of statistics for the first 10 minutes of the
so
video.
it's actually it's a really fun video. Yeah. So you know what? So I wanted to share like a super. Do we have time?
Yes,
I'll share a
we'll
super
make
quick
time.
story. Super quick. I love it because you were talking about like that intersection between frugality and minimalism. And so that really hit me this last year. So we have a corner of our basement. I really wanted a permanent studio. We were so tired of pulling out lights and cameras, and every time we wanted to videotape another,
I had to set up
yeah,
everything.
because we do 2 videos a week, and I'm like, this is a drag. This whole corner
takes so much
was
time, right? It's like an
it
extra half
does.
an hour.
Yeah.
And so this whole corner was like books. So I've homeschooled 22 years. I had more books than any person has a right to own. And I told Larry, I said, I'm going to sell off. It was 2 bookshelves full, and the bookshelves were 5 shelves each. It was a huge, hundreds of books.
Floor to ceiling.
Yep. And I said, you know what? It is time. And I would sit in the corner. I would sit in the corner and cry because those books to me represented my children's childhood. I'm selling their childhood. So finally, I told Larry, I said, first of all, I think I need to give myself permission to mourn the fact that, yes, my children are grown, but recognize, isn't that the point of parenthood? Is to see them grown. And it's okay that I no longer have small children. I have to be okay with that. And we're headed into retirement, which I had to I had to change my mindset. This is a whole new adventure, and the studio is a part of that adventure. So once I embraced that, then I took one more step. This is the step that kicked it over the edge for me. I told the kids we were getting ready to go to the Smoky Mountains together as a family. Even our older grown boys were like driving down to join us. And we had rented a cabin. And I said, guys, whatever I make off of selling all these books, that is our blow money on vacation. Every single penny of it, we're going to buy crazy souvenirs that cost like 10 times more than.
We don't have
I know we have
cups.
like cool matching
Really cool.
coffee cups. We don't have them today, but so we bought souvenirs. We took this expensive cave tour. We did all kinds of stuff on vacation with all that money. I made $425 selling.
That is some good money.
And the whole corner is cleared out. The studio looks, every time I sit across the room, this studio looks like I could see it in my head, like I envisioned it. And it makes me happy. Every time I look across the room, I'm happy. And I no longer feel that loss because I sort of processed it. And not only that, I look at and I think, look at the amazing times we had and it was important to me that money go to something that the whole family was going to enjoy. So I think that is part of learning to sort of embrace that minimalism is saying, I have to be okay with life changing.
Yeah, letting go of those items. I often refer to them as grief items, and I think that we only associate grief with death. And that there are so many forms of grief of, a time period that's finished and so many other things. And, I call it selective minimalism. And I'm like, I don't care if you never want to be a minimalist. Selective minimalism is about choosing those areas of your home which you need to just remove the excess to do more of what you love, to be able to sit down and do your craft hobby really quickly, to be able to record a video, to be able to do a live stream, whatever that looks like for you. And in essence, that is married together with saving money because, you can sell items that you're no longer using. You need a smaller home. All of those things are part of that bigger picture. So I am so grateful to you guys. I cannot wait to how to be a super saver in 7 easy steps. And I can't wait to join you guys in the premiere, and I hope that you guys will too. But thank you so much, Larry and Hope, for joining me today. I'm so grateful to you guys and all of your practical tips. And so if you're not already, head over to Hope and Larry's channel. If you are wanting some support on your journey towards frugality, you can always join our Small Changes Facebook page. It's free. It's all there for you guys. So thank you so much, Larry and Hope. I hope that we can do this again very soon, and I will see you guys in the premiere. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Thanks.